Most people remember the first time they held a camera. I remember the first time I lost mine. My name is Logan Reyes. I'm 24, and I've never been the loudest person in the room. I observe. I frame the world through a lens. While others spoke with volume, I spoke in visuals, capturing moments that most people missed. Filmmaking wasn't a hobby, it was my lifeline, my way of making sense of a chaotic world. For the past 4 years, I worked every freelance gig I could find, editing weddings, filming church events, even shooting real estate walkthroughs to save up for my dream rig, a $2,800 mirrorless camera with professional lenses, a stabilizer, and custom gear I pieced together over time. It wasn't flashy, but it was mine, and it was powerful. With that camera, I started documenting untold stories, musicians on subway corners, immigrant families building small businesses, kids skating through cracked sidewalks. Real life, raw and unfiltered. It was going to be the foundation for my first short documentary series. But one evening, everything changed. I came home from shooting B-roll for a food truck series I was developing. My plan was to spend the night backing up footage and cutting together a teaser. But when I opened the gear cabinet I'd locked since day one, it was empty. Camera, gone. Lenses, gone. Tripod, gone. At first, I thought I'd been robbed. I ran through the house, heart racing, checking for signs of a break-in. But nothing else was touched. Just my gear. Just my future. I found my parents in the kitchen, casually laughing over a glass of wine like it was any other Tuesday. "Hey, where's my camera?" I asked, trying not to panic. My mom didn't even flinch. "Oh, we sold it," she said like she was telling me we'd run out of milk. I blinked. "You... what?" My dad chimed in. "Your sister needed new branding shots for her business launch. We didn't have the money, so we sold the camera. You're always saying you want to upgrade anyway." That was the moment my stomach dropped. My older sister, Madeline, had always been the golden child, the polished, charismatic one with a flair for fashion and a way of making everything about her look like destiny. And now, she had a new startup. And apparently, my dreams were the down payment. They didn't just sell a camera. They erased 4 years of work without asking. That night, I realized I wasn't just the quiet one. I was invisible. I couldn't speak. I just stood there in the kitchen, my mouth half open, waiting for them to laugh. For someone to say, "Just kidding," or "It's in the garage," or literally anything that didn't mean what I thought it meant. But no one said anything. My mom continued slicing pears like she hadn't just bulldozed 4 years of my life. My dad scrolled through his phone like I was the one interrupting something. "You sold my gear?" I asked again, voice shaky. My mom nodded without even turning around. "Yes, Logan, your sister needed help. You weren't using it this week, and it was just sitting there." "Just sitting there?" I repeated. "That wasn't a coat or a forgotten bike. That was a $2,800 investment. It's my job, my work." Dad finally looked up. "Logan, come on. It's just a camera. You're creative. You'll figure it out. You've always said you want to upgrade." "I said I wanted to upgrade eventually, not have my gear stolen and sold without asking." "Watch your tone," Mom snapped, setting down the knife. I felt the heat rising in my chest. "You didn't even talk to me first. You just, what, opened the cabinet, took it all, and found a buyer like it was nothing?" "We did what we had to do," Dad said flatly. "Madeline's launch photo shoot was important for her brand image. We couldn't let her show up without the right look." "Oh, well, God forbid she doesn't have the perfect luxury aesthetic for Instagram," I snapped.
"That's enough," Mom said sharply. "Your sister has real ambitions, Logan. She's trying to build something meaningful. You've been fiddling with that camera for years, and what do you have to show for it? A few moody clips of street performers?" My fists clenched. Those clips? They were stories. Human stories. I had hours of footage I was shaping into a docuseries. I was building something real, something raw, honest, powerful, and they reduced it to fiddling? "You think what I do doesn't matter?" I said quietly. "No," Dad replied. "We just think you're smart enough to adapt. You'll be fine." Fine? I walked out before I screamed. Straight to my room where my gear used to be. The empty cabinet stared back at me like a grave. I collapsed on my bed, shaking. How do you explain to people, to your own parents, that what they sold wasn't just glass and plastic and metal? It was hours of labor. It was editing in the dark, crashing on caffeine, hauling equipment in rainstorms, missing parties, turning down trips because you had a vision. And now, that vision had been packaged and sold for a purse. I messaged Ethan, my best friend and occasional second shooter. "They sold my gear," I typed. "All of it, for Madeline's stupid fashion launch." "WTF," he replied immediately. "They didn't even ask you?" "Nope." "Dude, that's next level messed up. I can't even think straight." He called instantly. I let it ring. I couldn't talk. Instead, I scrolled through my backup folder on an old USB. There were the names of all the unfinished projects: Street Pulse, Echoes of Blue, the Lemon Stand Kids. All frozen. I went to Madeline's room that night. She was live streaming a Get Ready With Me for her followers, all 14,000 of them. "Oh, hey," she chirped, turning down the volume on her phone. "Did you know Mom and Dad sold my gear?" I asked. She blinked, unfazed. "Yeah, they told me earlier." "And that didn't seem like, I don't know, a problem?" She paused to swipe gloss across her lips. "Look, I didn't ask them to sell it. I just mentioned that you hadn't used it this week and that it was worth something. It was their decision." "So you planted the seed and walked away," I muttered. Madeline shrugged. "You're always talking about being broke and needing better equipment. I thought you'd be relieved." "Relieved?" I echoed. "You're an artist, Logan. You'll bounce back. That's what artists do." She smiled and turned back to her mirror. In that moment, I realized something painful and permanent. No one in this house saw me. Not as a professional, not even as an adult. Just as the quiet one, the replaceable one, the one who figures it out. But not.
That night, I couldn't sleep, not even for a second. Every time I shut my eyes, all I could see was Chloe's smug little smirk, that careless shrug, that tone, the one she always used when she thought she'd outplayed me. It wasn't just the gear, it was the way they talked about it, like years of effort could be dismissed with a wave and a sip of wine. The next morning, I sat in my room with my old backup laptop, the one I hadn't used since college. It whirred like a dying vacuum, taking minutes just to open a file. I tried editing a clip from one of my last shoots, but the lag made it feel like I was carving video into stone with a spoon. And that's when the rage finally hit me. I wasn't sad anymore. I wasn't shocked. I was furious. They didn't just sell my tools. They sold my time. Every side gig I'd taken, every weekend I'd skipped hanging with Ethan to chase light at golden hour, every cheap burrito I'd lived on instead of ordering something decent,
All of it flushed for Chloe's rebranding shoot. That afternoon, I printed every receipt, every invoice, every screenshot of deposits from clients. I compiled emails from collaborators, BTS photos of me editing at 2 a.m., and footage timestamps from memory cards I still had. I was going to confront them with proof. But something in me knew it wouldn't matter. So I did what I do best. I documented. I turned on my cracked webcam and hit record. My name is Logan Reyes, and this is what happens when your family sees you as less than convenient. I walked through everything: how I built my kit, how I hustled, how it became the only stable thing in my life. I told the story like I would for one of my docs: calm, clear, devastating. And I ended it with this. When people say family sticks together, ask yourself, does that include your dreams? Because mine were up for auction. Then I uploaded it to my private Vimeo channel and sent it to Ethan. He watched it twice and texted, "This is art, bro. Real, furious. You need to use this." He was right. Later that day, I walked into the kitchen while my parents were reorganizing the pantry. I placed the manila folder on the table. "What's this?" Dad asked, brows raised. "Proof," I said. "Proof that the camera and gear you sold belonged to me, bought with my own money, used for professional work." Mom looked at the documents and scoffed. "Logan, we've already been through this." "No," I said. "You talked. I listened. Now it's my turn." Chloe waltzed in like she was on a runway. "Is this about your little video stuff again?" I turned slowly to face her. "That little video stuff paid for half the groceries last summer. It helped you record your first product reel when you didn't even know how to set a frame. Remember?" She blinked. "Okay, wow, you're seriously bitter." "Bitter doesn't cover it," I said. "You knew what they'd do. You mentioned the gear, knowing they'd see it as expendable." "Please," she scoffed. "Don't act like I control what Mom and Dad do." "No, but you know how to pull their strings," I said, "and you've been doing it since we were kids." Dad raised his hand. "Enough. Chloe didn't make us do anything. We made a family decision." I laughed bitterly. "Correction. You made a decision for the family. You didn't include me. You just took." "Stop being dramatic," Mom said. "You're overreacting." I stepped closer, voice steady. "That camera was my voice. You didn't just sell gear. You erased everything I've built. And if you don't fix it, I will." Chloe rolled her eyes. "Fix what? You gonna sue Mom and Dad?" I paused, then smiled. "Maybe," I said, "but I'm starting with truth. I already sent the footage to a few colleagues. One of them runs a creator spotlight blog. They're interested in featuring the story about stolen dreams and family betrayal." The color drained from Mom's face. "You wouldn't?" "You're all about reputation, right?" I said, turning to Chloe. "Wouldn't want people to think your rebrand is built on..."
I didn't just get angry. I got busy. The confrontation at the dinner table had flipped a switch in me, a switch I didn't even know existed. And for the first time in years, I didn't care about being the calm one or the quiet one. I cared about being heard. The next day, I sat in my tiny room and created a video, short, sharp, and raw. Just 2 minutes. I titled it, "What Happens When Your Family Sells Your Dream for a Purse?" It opened with me standing in front of my now empty gear cabinet. Then quick cuts, photos of my old camera rig, clips from past shoots, footage of my sister flaunting her new wardrobe on Instagram. I narrated over it all. I worked for 4 years to build my creative future. My family sold it in one afternoon because my sister needed to look good on launch day. They didn't ask, they didn't care, and I'm done staying silent. I uploaded it to TikTok without much expectation. By the next morning, it had 90,000 views. By the end of the week, it passed 1.5 million. The comment section exploded. Dude, this hit hard. My parents did the same with my guitar. My brother took my editing PC. No one understood why I was shattered. Thank you for sharing this. We're not invisible anymore. People weren't just watching, they were relating. A week later, an email popped up in my inbox. A small filmmaking nonprofit out of Portland offered to loan me replacement gear for a short film. Another filmmaker DM'd me saying he'd been through something similar and wanted to collaborate. And then, Ethan's idea, a GoFundMe. We called it Rebuild the Rig. The goal was modest, $2,800, enough to replace what was taken. We hit it in 72 hours. But it wasn't about the money anymore. It was about the fact that strangers saw my worth more than my own blood did. And that lit a new fire in me. With the loaned gear, I got back to work. But I didn't just pick up where I left off. I created something new, something personal. A mini documentary titled Sacrificed by Blood. It wasn't just about me. It was about every creative kid who's been told their passion is a phase. Every student who had their art supplies thrown away. Every freelancer who had to justify why a laptop isn't just a toy. The film followed 3 young creators, a dancer whose parents ripped up her audition letter, a painter forced into accounting, and me, the filmmaker who lost everything for a fashion haul. Raw, unfiltered, honest. I used old footage, interviews via Zoom, and reenactments shot on the street with borrowed gear. Ethan helped edit, staying up with me past midnight on energy drinks and pure spite. We posted it on YouTube and Vimeo. Within 2 weeks, it had tens of thousands of views. We got written up in a small indie film blog. Teachers started emailing me, asking to use it in classrooms. One local arts foundation offered me a grant to fund a follow-up series on youth creatives. And through it all, my parents stayed quiet. They watched, though. I knew it. The passive-aggressive texts stopped. The guilt trip calls went silent. Even Chloe didn't gloat online anymore. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because now I had something they couldn't take. A platform. A voice. One night, during a live stream Q&A after the doc dropped, someone asked me, "Would you forgive your family?" I paused, staring into the webcam. Then I said, "Forgiveness isn't about pretending it didn't happen. It's about choosing peace over permission. And I don't need their permission to live my life anymore." The chat lit up with comments. "You just earned a new subscriber. Powerful. Say that again for the people in the back." That night, I cried. Not from sadness, but from relief. After years of shrinking, apologizing, and explaining myself to people who never listened, I finally stood tall. And strangers across the internet saw me for who I really was. I wasn't just Logan the quiet kid. I wasn't just the one who figures it out. I was a storyteller. And now they had to listen. The night my short doc hit 1 million views, I was eating cold noodles off a paper plate, half asleep on my keyboard. Ethan was passed out on my couch, snoring softly with a game controller still in his hand. We'd been running edits and replying to DMs all day, messages from strangers across the globe who felt seen by my story.
I didn't think Chloe would ever react publicly. She thrived off being curated, pristine, her feed a shrine to pastel flat lays and effortless elegance. But the next morning, I woke up to a barrage of pings. She'd posted a story, a photo of her in sunglasses with the caption, "Family drama belongs offline. Keep it classy." Subtle, vague, but I knew what it was. The comments, however, were not vague. People were done with pretty lies. "Your brother's doc was fire. This your response?" "Girl, you let them sell his tools. You're not the victim. Try accountability next time." She disabled comments within the hour. It was the first time I'd ever seen Chloe truly rattled, not by me, but by the truth. For years, she could spin any story, charm any audience. But this time, the camera was mine, and I had receipts. Still, I wasn't looking for revenge. I was looking for something real. That evening, as I prepped my next video, a behind-the-scenes on how I shot Sacrificed by Blood with secondhand gear, a notification flashed across my screen. An Instagram DM. Verified account. Netflix docs. I blinked. My heart stopped. "Hey, Logan, we saw your short on Vimeo and YouTube. Compelling work. Would love to chat about possibly submitting to our shorts program." I read the message 5 times. Then, once more, out loud. Ethan jolted awake. What happened?" I turned my laptop toward him. "Netflix wants to talk." He blinked, hair wild. "Bro, what the hell? Are you serious?" I think I'm gonna cry." We stared at each other, then erupted into laughter. Loud, stupid, almost maniacal laughter. After everything, the theft, the shouting, the silent treatment, I hadn't just rebuilt what was lost, I'd elevated it. The call with Netflix was surreal. They weren't promising anything yet, just interested in hearing more. But even that conversation was more validation than I'd ever received at home. They asked questions like, "What inspired this story? Would you be open to expanding it into a full series? What does family mean to you now?" And I answered honestly. Family isn't just blood. It's whoever respects your boundaries and shows up when it counts. The producer smiled. A week later, they followed up. Nothing was finalized yet, contracts, clearances, all that legal maze, but they were seriously considering adding my piece to a segment highlighting young creators from underrepresented backgrounds. Whether or not it landed, that moment was mine. After the call, I sat quietly in my room, not crying, not overwhelmed, just still. The chaos was gone. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't reacting. I was living. That same day, my parents texted me. "Saw your documentary. We're shocked. Didn't realize you were hurting that much." I didn't respond. Then another message. "We didn't handle things well. Chloe's upset too. But maybe we can talk soon." It didn't feel satisfying or deserved, but it felt different. Maybe, just maybe, they were starting to understand. I didn't need an apology. I didn't need closure wrapped in a bow. I just needed recognition. I needed to know that I could fight for myself and win without becoming them. I went live that night on my channel and shared the news. Not about Netflix, not yet. That was still under wraps. But about something else. 6 months ago, I was sitting in a silent house, staring at an empty shelf. Today, I'm here, in my own place, with my own tools, doing what I love again. All because I stopped waiting for permission. The chat flooded with clapping emojis, hearts. "You earned this." And I finally believed it.
My parents never truly apologized. Chloe, she went back to her curated life of pastel filters and self-praise.
Maybe deep down they thought the storm would pass and I'd come back eventually. Same old Logan, quiet and obedient. But I didn't. Because something bigger had taken root inside me. I chose myself. Not out of rebellion, but out of clarity. The kind that comes after everything you love is taken from you, and you still find a way to rebuild. I moved into a small studio. It had creaky floors, mismatched furniture, and a leaky faucet, but it was mine. I rented a cheap co-working space where other creators gathered, and for the first time, I felt part of a tribe that saw me. With the new gear, I launched a docuseries called Unseen Stories, highlighting artists, designers, musicians, all of us who were once told we weren't enough, that our dreams were disposable. We told stories that mattered, stories that weren't polished or perfect, but honest. And something amazing happened. People listened. My audience grew not just because of fancy edits or cinematic shots, but because I spoke from a place so many others lived in silently, being the overlooked one, the scapegoat, the sibling who got less. I started getting letters from kids in similar homes, comments from strangers saying they felt like I told their story, messages from teachers using my work to show students they mattered, even if no one at home said it. That's when I realized this was never just about a camera. It was about reclaiming voice, about proving that when the people closest to you don't believe in you, you don't have to break. You can build. So, if you're watching this or reading this and you feel invisible in your own family, please hear me when I say, you are not what they think you are. You are who you fight to become. And your worth isn't defined by what they give you. It's revealed by what you refuse to let them take. Thank you for sticking through this journey. If you've ever been the forgotten sibling or the one no one believed in, drop a comment in the comments and tell your story. You're not alone anymore. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. This isn't the end. It's just the first frame of a story we're creating together.